Welcome back to the Better Than Rich show. You are in for another treat today with Cathy Christen. She likes to call herself the spirited boss babe. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's a keynote speaker. She's a life and business strategist, best-selling author, dedicated to helping others live a life that they love. She brings profound awareness to extraordinary possibilities within everyone she meets, and provides business and personal coaching tools to help individuals and organizations elevate to their highest potential. She has coached over 100 people over the past decade to start and grow profitable businesses and exclusively mentors 35 entrepreneurs across multiple market spaces annually. She helps Go Abundance for women. She works with Vector Marketing and Cutco. She is a mom of now 2. And she is just an incredible soul. You're really going to love this conversation with Cathy Christen. Welcome back to the Better Than Rich show. I'm Mike Abramowitz. I'm here with Andrew Biggs, and we have an unbelievable guest today. We've been wanting to get her on the show for quite some time. Cathy Christen, author of Life as a Masterpiece. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Better Than Rich show, Cathy and Andrew. Hello.
Hello. Excited to be here.
So glad you're here, Cathy. Glad we can make it.
Kath, I've known you for probably what feels like forever, but it's 15 to 20 years of this at this point. So I'm just so excited that our audience gets to know you and learn more about you. And let's just if we want to just kind of start, if anybody doesn't know you, I know you as the all Hall of Fame Cutco manager. I know you as the unbelievable business entrepreneur, the serial entrepreneur, someone who is an author, someone who's a speaker, who travels the world traveler. My wife and I have been over your house over in Texas, but I'd like for our audience, if you wanted our audience to know about Cathy, how would you describe yourself? How do you describe yourself to your clients or to anyone in your Go Abundance Women's Mastermind, or how would you describe yourself to somebody if they asked?
That's a great question. It's been such an evolution over the past decade, I think, from what I felt my identity was as a younger entrepreneur. And then I think when I stepped into my 30s, I started to have a much bigger perspective and a desire to be known for more than just an ass-kicking businesswoman, but for really being that whole woman and having those different aspects of life that are thriving and not just creating abundance in business, but somebody who's very focused on living a life by design, a life that allows me or anyone to pursue the things that they love, which for me is time with my family and travel. So I would say, for myself, yes, serial entrepreneur, but really somebody who's learned how to live a life that they love and not just be, drowning in work, but utilizing work as a vehicle to live the life of our dreams.
That's awesome. I think, and I want to ask you some questions about family a little bit later and how you balance it all. But one of the questions that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is how do they actually do that? Like a lot of people that we serve are kind of working in their business, not on their business, right? They're kind of business operators, not business owners. And, they're caught in the grind. They escape the 9 to 5, only end up working 24/7, I like to say. So you're somebody who actually did it and did it right and built a wonderful business and foundation for your life on it. How does someone even start? Or how did you do that? Walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts first with mentors, right? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you modeling, right? Have you found people that are living the life that you want to live? And asking them questions, right? For so long, I felt like I had to figure it out on my own. And I think that the moment that shifted for me, which I remember vividly, was the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, where I had a conversation with a great mentor, which you guys might know, and some of the audience might know, Justin Donald.
Yeah, he was on our episode. Investor. He was episode 2 of season 3. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So Justin's been one of my best friends forever. And I remember watching him travel and, do all these fun things and have a rockin' business, but not be in the business, right? And I just remember being so jealous as a younger manager in my early 20s at the time. I was like, man, I need that. I want that. I'm 25. I feel like I'm so burnt out, but really my career's just launching. And I feel like I'm just going to fall apart. Right. And I just remember him looking at me and saying, you've become one of the best, managers in our company's history. We're having a conversation. He goes, keep it up. You're going to burn yourself out. And I just looked at him and he goes, the shift happens when you learn how to really take pride in being the best teacher of the business, the best teacher of the different things versus the best one at it, right? And he's like, and making sure that you're structuring where you are the CEO and you have, and so I remember just that we were checking in at the Bellagio in Las Vegas for a weekend of just celebration. And I remember after just that quick interaction of like, hello, and he said, congrats. We just had a number one finish to the year in our company at the time. And I just looked like shit and I felt like shit, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this, like there's no way. This is not the life I love, like it's fun winning, it's fun being on top, but not sacrificing myself, my health, my energy, my family. Like I missed just important things. And I remember at that time saying like, it stops now. Like, this is not the life that I want. And really starting to think about what did I want, right? Like, what did I want to have? What did I want life to look like? And when I heard about being a CEO, right? Being a business owner, what does that look like to work on the business versus in the business as an operator? And sat down and started to identify, what does my dream organization look like, right? And it's like, I have someone that handles marketing and advertising. I have someone that handles, blank relations. I have someone who's handling the admin and back end and payroll and whatever it is. I have someone who's handling sales, training or whatever it might be. And every business has been different, right? But really sitting down and going, okay, what are my departments? Because as a business owner, I should be meeting with department heads, right? Not with just everyone who's working. And my department heads should be giving me an update on what that part of the organization is doing, what's good, what needs help, and I should be guiding the ship. And when that shift happened, that it was an intentional focus, right? A shift focus. And I said, okay, here's what I want. Here's what I want to create. And it was amazing what started happening after that in the last 15 years that have been pretty outstanding.
Yeah, you're speaking. Yeah.
And I can talk more about that.
Well, we'll probably get. I'd like to get into some of the nuance with that for sure, because we're in the same direct sales business with Cutco and Vector, and it's like most of our demographic that are running our businesses for us are 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds. So you're talking to an audience when they hear that we're delegating our businesses to 19 year olds. They're like, what the, like that's crazy. But for you are the epitome of what that means to like lead through people and lead through a staff. How would you recommend someone that's listening to this to enforce these departments, to structure your staff meetings, to communicate with them, to hold people accountable, and also let go of control? Because I think there's a lot of control freaks that listen to this show. They're like, no, I can't delegate this to someone overseas, or I can't delegate this to my staff. They're incompetent. They're not going to get it done. They're not going to do it as good as me. So if you could speak to that just a little bit, that would be great.
Yes. And I'm going to rewind it a little bit more, because I think that there's some big back end planning and big vision that has to happen for this to be orchestrated properly. Because as you said, and by the way, whether someone's 20 years old or you're delegating to a 40 or 50-year-old, honestly, it does not matter, is what I found, because some of the 40, 50-year-olds have had 20 years of bad habits. I'd rather catch them at 20, 25 and develop them the right way, right? And when I lead a women's, I help lead a women's mastermind. And when we share at GoBundance, I remember some of the ladies are like, wait, you have, and I'm like, I love developing 20 to 25-year-olds who are hungry, who want to learn, who want opportunity, who want growth. I said, those are my favorite. I said, they're so moldable. They're so coachable. Now you have to have the right person, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but like, holy moly, how that impacts. And I have one of my coaching clients currently, she just flew down last week for an intensive couple days, and we were chatting about things. And she goes, oh my gosh, best advice you could have given me. Like, my COO has been unbelievable. And she put someone in a COO role who's 25 just recently. And she's, she's in her late 40s, approaching 50. And originally she was looking for someone who is more seasoned. And now she's like, he's the best thing that's ever happened, like, and giving me updates on everything. Right. And so it goes back to, one, your business, whatever business it is, whatever you're doing. Number one, I already talked about is like, what are the departments that you need, right? What's the help that you want? Like if you were able to segregate your business and go, this 10 years from now, like working at a very large scale, what are all, because right now those departments, one person might run three of those departments, right? And then eventually you have three people, but they're running everything underneath, but eventually down the line, they're going to have a team of 10 each or whatever it might be, right? But for that lead person in that department, what characteristics do they need? And sitting down and going, okay, for this role, I need somebody who's amazing with people, right? Like extrovert, loves chatting, loves being out there. That's what I need for this role. For this role, I need someone who's so detail oriented, loves spreadsheets, loves to take so much pride in like all the new spreadsheets they created, and like loves organization. And this is really important to identify for each role: personality type. And obviously there's all these different tests and things that you can do as well, which are so helpful nowadays. But just at a basic level, like what type of personality do I want? A chatty person outgoing? Do I need more reserve? What kind of skills do they need to have? And knowing that, because then as you're hiring or as you're looking, your brain knows what it's looking for, right? Or what it's looking for. So when you meet that person, you're like, oh my gosh, they would be amazing for this, because you've already identified the type of person you want in that role. And when you align the right people, the right characteristics with the right person, that is where they thrive. That is where you can start, with time being able to delegate more, and like they're just stoked to take on more and show you what they can do. But that same person in the wrong role, you kill them. Like they're just miserable, right? Like if I have that like super organized, awesome person, I'm like, hey, I need you to work, meet these new clients, work with this. And they're like, oh, like that is not what they want to be doing. And vice versa, trying to put somebody who thrives around people sitting in a corner doing accounting, they're going to lose their mind. And you're really killing the talent that they bring to your team. And so I feel that really bottlenecks.
I want to kick it to Biggs. I will say that too many entrepreneurs and business owners build their business based upon who's in front of them. So it's like, these are the people I have right now, so I'm going to build the business based upon who I have. But what you're saying is, let me reverse engineer this thing. Let me figure out what is the type of business I want to design, and then like what type of characteristics of an individual do I need to fill into these different roles, and then let me see who's in my depth chart that might fill in some of those characteristics. So it's really a beautiful model. So let me kick it to you, Big. So I'm sure you want to jam on this a little bit.
Yeah, and then attract, right, the rest of the rest of the org chart.
And by the way, sometimes you do have those people that you're like, but I love them, and you can get creative and create a role that matches who they are, that serves your business, Right. And maybe it's a new role you develop, right? But that's possible as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is spot on with what our audience needs, right? Which is like how to actually design something, how to think with the end in mind, and then reverse engineer it. Part of that is people, which you really hit on. The other half, I think, from my vantage point, is like systems. I don't know what your take on that is. So what are some of, like, when you think about systems, like how do you define a system? And then how do you help people integrate systems into their business, or how have you integrated systems into your business? Like, jam on that a little bit. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think once you have the type of person and what's happening, then creating those like SOPs or whatever it might be for each role. It needs to be something that if, God forbid something happened to your lead person or whatever, someone else could pick up, read it, and like execute, right? And so this takes time. And this takes time that a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to take. And I've even caught myself in different seasons going, oh, I'll just do this, or we'll get to it later, or let me just do it myself, right? Because it's like, I can do it on autopilot. And if I sit, it's going to take me longer to think through it. But the sacrifice of taking the time to sit down, think through it, and write it out how you would want it, and what that does for like years or decades to come, is a game changer. And it creates so much time and space for you long term. Short term, it might not feel great. It might feel like overwhelming, but it matters. And so just sitting down, and I can't speak because every business is different, but just really sitting down and going, okay, what are the procedures? What are standard operating procedures? Maybe you have scripts, right, for certain things. Maybe this is how I want someone always greeted, or maybe this is how I want, once we're closing or we're dealing with a client, it has the steps like meet with client, make sure we get this info, do this, set up blank account, follow up a month later, see how this is happening, like whatever it might be. But having it where it's, there's a binder, an online binder, whatever it is, and they know like exactly what needs to happen. And it's amazing when you as the business owner take the time to do that, how well they execute. I mean, I have great people that have come in before and in seasons of transition or there were just, changes in how we started operating things. And it made it a lot more difficult and frustrating for them because like, I just don't know exactly they don't want to screw it up, right? Like your best people, they want to do good by you. They want to do a great job, but they also like, they don't want to mess it up, And so the more time you take to give them exactly boom, 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 here's what I need, then they can go, oh, cool, And so clarity for them allows them to step up and even surpass your expectations. Where if you don't take the time to do that, they're kind of playing a guessing game or doing their best. And then you might be getting frustrated because it's not exactly what you wanted. They're frustrated because they didn't know exactly what you wanted. And you have disgruntled employees or clients, and you don't want that. And so I would just say, Biggs, it would be that the time, take the time to actually sit down and identify, and it's planning. And it takes that is what a true business owner and CEO spends most of their time is putting those procedures together, putting systems, adjusting things, updating things so that everything can run smoothly when they're not there.
Well, I'm so glad you're saying all this because I'm going to send this episode to all my clients. Be like, I told you so. Like, you got to start working on the business, not in the business. Okay. Because it's like, they're so focused on like getting through the week or getting through the month or like just getting by. And, they're constantly putting out fires. They're constantly being interrupted. They're constantly making excuses on why they need to be there doing it all by themselves. And it's like, no, what you need is the exact opposite. You need to get out of there and do some planning for 1 or 2 days a week and like really sit back.
And even if they took 2 days a month, like they just took like a personal retreat 2 days of the month to work on the next thing that they want to create systems on, right? Like I understand being a newer manager and feeling like you need to be like, because when you have a newer business, that's a whole other topic. It's like having a baby. And so when you have a new business, you do want to do more for it. You have to do more for it. You put your money into it. Like you want to make sure the foundations are being set up the right way. And so I get for newer budding entrepreneurs or newer businesses, the need, sometimes the desire, mostly to be in there. And so start small. Say, hey, 2 days out of the month, every month, I'm going to pick a different thing to work on, and I'm going to disappear for those 2 days. Maybe even book yourself a hotel or an Airbnb for 1 night or 2 nights and turn off your phone, turn everything off. I mean, you need it on, but like no one else bothers you, airplane mode, and just sit and work on that. And maybe it's just you. And maybe you bring in 1 or 2 trusted advisors to brainstorm with, because a lot can come out, working with others as well. But if you just took 2 days once a month and created systems around something, oh my gosh, like maybe it takes you 6 months. It takes 8, but you get all that done. Whew, the next 3, 5, 10 plus years, like they feel real good.
You're speaking our language, Kat. This is exactly. I mean, we're so passionate about this that we're doing a 5-day mini course in December on exactly these topics. So this is
Nice.
so important for people to experience. And
sign up for that.
It's $29. You guys
link is in the show notes. Yeah, check the show notes.
But one of the curiosities I have around this is, you said I like to travel. You like to family and travel. But you also have these systems in the business. So how would you recommend someone enforce or have their finger on the pulse? So if you're traveling a lot, how do you have your finger on the pulse? How do you monitor? What are the KPIs or the KRAs of your business or that you teach your clients to make sure it's like, hey, I'm traveling and I also know that things are getting done. And if things aren't getting done, you have their finger on pulse so there's a least amount of consequence, because sometimes it's like I come back and it's like, shoot, I got to pick up this mess, versus I come back, but I was kind of keeping the consequences at bay the entire time during my travels or during my time away. So what would you say to that, to anyone who has that curiosity?
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be different a little bit again in every business. And like you were saying, we need to know what are the KPIs, what are your key areas of opportunity, like what needs to happen. And so having metrics for them for whatever it is your business is in terms of daily metrics, things they can measure, right? And so whether it's calls made per day, leads collected, people contacted, like I don't, again, depends on the business, but most businesses circle around either client acquisition, it's client acquisition or it's retaining clients in some fashion or serving clients in some fashion. And so how is that getting organized? But when I leave, something that as I'm traveling, as I'm gone, I make sure that one, your lead operator like needs a full day with you before you head out of town, and you're going to be completely missing. Right? For me, this is what worked very well for me for years, because they'll keep things moving and they know reach out to me in emergency. They're the only one that's going to reach out to me, and they're going to give updates to me as well. But that key person getting time, because they know they can always reach me when I'm home. They can send me a voice memo. They can, any questions they have. But typically I meet with the operator once a week, right? We'll meet for 90 minutes, go over last week, what went well, what could have gone better. What areas are they can we take up a notch or two? Maybe they're feeling good with it, but not great. Maybe they're feeling great, but not amazing. Like, where can we level up? And so every week having 90 minutes with your operator, no matter what. So we have that, right? But if I'm going to be leaving the country and I want to be just gone, I'm going to spend a full day and I'm going to walk through like every day with that person. And we're going to have their like, okay, here's what we want to get done by here, and having times of updates that they want to get updates from their people. And it's really showing them how to manage the thing as if they were you, but saying, hey, get an update by here, every day at the end of the day. If you can send me, and I'd have my operator email. I said I might not check it for 2 or 3 days. I might check it every night. I don't know. But every night they send an update with what happened that day, what went well, what could have gone better, any questions. And if they have any questions, I'm like, feel free, if there's something that's time sensitive, to send me a text. Just give me 48 hours to respond to it. Very rare do they bother me on vacation. I mean, I think I've had 2 or 3 times where they are like, I need you, and I was away. And that's over a 21-year span, and I know, Mike, I used to travel. I was gone at least 2 weeks a month, like out of the year. So setting up expectations, but just doing a walkthrough, letting them walk through it with you, like whatever plan is in place, or helping them create that plan together. Or if you created it already or you have it, it's just, hey, let's do a full review day to day to make sure you're feeling confident in executing the plan, while I'm out. And then setting something where, like, if they beat or match performance that you produced, whether it was the week prior or it was the year prior or whatever it might be, doing something fun for them to celebrate them, and so making it exciting for them to match or beat while you're away, right? And I would say this is still in those first like 3 years of a business, because eventually as it grows, like the operator, they've got it, and it's really more pouring into that person. What personal time do you have with that person? Relationships that you build with their families, taking care, sending their family on a vacation to just say thank you for just being amazing, right? And when you keep people first and you treat them great, they're excited to give back. And you don't do it for them to give back, but it always comes around, And what I found too is as I've worked with operators and developed and then helped them open their dream, business, and they left me, which people would always be like, aren't you afraid they're going to leave you? I'm like, I hope they do eventually. I don't want them to, but like, that's the goal, is to prepare them to. They don't want to leave until they know they have someone that's going to fill their shoes at a high level. And for years, I've had those people still, hey, do you need anything? Do you need help? Are your operators good? Do they need any coaching? And it's just really cool to see that. And it's because they knew how much you cared about them and how much you poured into them, not just business, but them helping live a life that they love, them getting to where they want to be. And they never want to leave you high and dry, because they're so appreciative for everything you've done for them.
This is really great. This is like a masterclass on staff development and delegation, which is awesome. So to tie a bow on this conversation, I wanted to just hear your take, and then I'll kick it to Biggs and we'll segue into another topic. But You mentioned you have different departments, like there's marketing, there's payroll, there's sales and training, and like there's different departments. But then you also mentioned this idea of this operator person as well. So I am curious on just your the philosophy that you have of having multiple department heads, maybe like 4 people that run a department, versus having this one operator that is like a buffer. It seems like this operator is a buffer between you and the department heads. So there's only one person reporting to you versus having all the department heads that are reporting to you. So just real quick, if you could just kind of tie a bow on your philosophy on having this buffer person there versus just having multiple department heads and just having like almost like a board.
And this is as your business develops, right? Like my goal was to have an operator who was me, right? They were the CEO of the business, and I'm just the owner, right? Like my goal is to eventually be the owner. And so I'm going to, work with the CEO, work with the operator, whatever it is. And so younger in the business, you're the operator, but it's like, how can I remove myself and have these department heads and I'm working with them as like, I'm the CEO, but then eventually I don't want to be the CEO. I just want to be the owner and get paid. So how quickly can I develop someone to take that CEO type role, to be that operator and be overseeing that? And I'm just working directly with them. They're my person and that's it. Right. So that's like, for me, the goal of any business that I run is to make sure that I develop a great CEO / operator. And that's the only person I'm talking to at, once the business is developed, right? In the earlier seasons and as it's younger and as, I have my hands a little more in there with them. I'm working side by side, really more as their coach, right? And I remember when I was younger, it was more like a partner, and we're like, it's a partnership, but really it's more of a coaching. Really, I'm coaching you to develop you to a place where like, how to do all this, run this, and eventually we can help you, launch whatever it is you want to do, right? I'm very big on future dream management and whatever's happening now really being a vehicle, helping them get there. And so, us really knowing what they want to do. But yeah, for me, like, I don't want to be the CEO of anything. I want to own a lot of shit. So, so I want to develop people to take that CEO role. But yeah, that CEO would work with those department heads. I hope that answers the question.
That's awesome. And I think, what I think you're underscoring here that I don't want anyone to miss is just how much you probably need to pour into that person to get them to that level of just developing them, coaching them, right? Really making sure they understand all the aspects of the business, but also leadership and management and how to actually interact with people. And I think you're a master at that. And that's why you're able to own a bunch of shit and not have to be stuck in your business. And it seems like you've even kind of transitioned to not just doing that inside your business, but also for people, outside of your business, right? More in a sort of coaching and consulting sort of position. I know you do a lot of work with GoBundance, and you lead the women's side of that business and that organization. I'd love to hear kind of some of the things you're up to outside of growing your own businesses and how you're consulting other businesses, what you're doing with GoBundance. Like, talk to that a little bit.
Yeah. So I became very passionate, I think in my 30s about just women in business. I think that in my 20s, it was the rat race of like, I'm going to beat all the guys. I'm better than all the guys. And it was just this, like, I took a lot of pride in being the only female at the top, and kicking the boys' butts. And a shift really happened as I went into my 30s, where and now in my 40s, complete another shift, which is more of the family and motherhood side, right? But when I hit my 30s, my gosh, I realized there were so many women coming to me for advice. I'm like, how do you handle this? How do you balance that? Can you really own businesses, be a top level, C-level executive, business owner, investor, and still be a great spouse and still be a great parent and dealing with mom guilt? And I was hearing all these things and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is stuff I just hadn't even thought about that women have to deal with. Because at that time in my 20s, I was not thinking about kids. God bless all you young moms. But I was just not. I was like, I just want to party. I was running my businesses. I just wasn't thinking about that. So when I hit my 30s and I have these young ladies who want to have kids, want to have families, ask me, I said, gosh, I haven't really thought about. And as I kept going, I think when I hit my mid 30s, I was like, oh crap, this is a serious issue. or just a serious topic that needs to be addressed is like women in business and the dynamics, because there's so many different dynamics that are there. And so I became really excited and passionate about pouring into that and really seeing that develop. And I remember in 2017, 18, I said, I want to start a women's group. And the name of it at that time was going to be Holistic Go-Getter, right? I was like, God, trying to think of things, because for me, I love to go, like I'm a person who's just like, go, 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 like buy more stuff, do more stuff, but I also want the space, it's not like I just want to be working all the time. Like I love traveling, I traveled 8 months out of the year since 2007. And that was a big priority of mine. I'm like, I want to see the world. I want to have these experiences with my family, and now with my kids, and so this is something that I wanted to have, and so with the family and business and all this, like that became a focus. So I started working on this group called Holistic Go-Getter, because I was like, I want it to be this whole woman. I want to understand like just the alignment, having that peace, not the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, all this stuff. And it was really amazing how like the world kind of lined up. I reconnected with some old friends, old Cutco greats, Hal Elrod, John Berghoff, John Broman, and they had mentioned, hey, there's this group, that you should meet the owner, and they had connected me, and I met Mike McCarthy, who was he's one of the elders for GoBundance Men and Tribe of Millionaires, and helped build that mastermind. And they told me all about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so aligned. I'm like, I need to be a part of this group. And they said, oh yeah, just one minor thing, it's men only. I was like, what? And it really is a beautiful thing, because it started as just like guys supporting each other and being able to be open and vulnerable about stuff that they might not want to be open in front of women about. Right. And they were really excited about building, this group of men that was not just workaholics and like, I made this much, I did this, but like they were living, they were actually living life. They were traveling, they were going on experiences, they were having families, and they were creating more passive income so that while they were sleeping, they were earning more, right? And being able to really enjoy the things that were important to them. And so I just, right away, a couple months later, literally right before I was about to have my first Holistic Go-Getter retreat in 2018, 2 weeks prior, they contacted me and said, hey, would you help us build this women's division, right? And it was just, the timing was so wild. And I was like, all right. And so shifted focus, put Holistic Go-Getter on the back burner, and started working with the women at GoBundance. And it's really focused on C-level executives and entrepreneurs, and really, helping them create abundance in all areas of life. So again, not just the wealth aspect, and even with the wealth aspect, it was wealth, but again through passive, through your investments. What was that earning you, right? And not just trading time for money, because you want your time to do all these other things that are, mean something to you. And so that's where we really wanted to be. And so having things around health, adventure, accountability, authentic relationships, contribution, and that financial freedom. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, that I remember you and I had a conversation a couple of years ago when we were going to do an investment deal, and you said, you're like, what the F? Like all these people around me, all these women are having all these passive income streams. All my friends having these passive income streams. It's like, I spent a lot of this money in my like 30s. And it's like, if I would have just learned all this shit earlier in life, it would have set me up. But you during that, I mean, we're probably going back maybe 2 or 3 years now, but like that was right before you, or right during this time frame. But since then, you learned these ideas of the passive income. I am curious more personally, like what has shifted? I know you've started to kind of going in this direction. I know you have this goal of like 100 doors, or at least you did when we spoke a couple of years ago. So
it's been fun, like I grew up very Dave Ramsey, which has amazing principles, but it was like everything cash, no leverage, don't use credit cards, and always paid stuff off and had too much fun doing a lot. But I never felt I had enough to do these bigger things. And so being around these individuals was so amazing for me, And, I hit my head, like, I just want to like hit my head on a wall. I'm like, how did I not get into this in my 20s? How did it take me till my, later 30s to get around this? But that shift of really understanding wealth building principles, right? And really diving in because I knew how to make a lot of money. I knew how to create great lifestyle systems to be away from the business and work on the business versus in the business. I knew a lot of these things, but I never learned how to build wealth. And that's my fault. But just a very different, grew up, money's the root of all evil. Family was like, if you have a lot of money, it's because you have the wrong priorities. Like just all these things that were so messed up. Okay. Which I had to do some intensive coaching myself to really shift and go, no, more money equals more impact. And that became my motto. And it was like, more money equals more impact. And like, how can we get more of that without creating more jobs, right? And that's something that I've loved always listening to Justin talk about, and really modeling that. But as I got around these, women and just hearing and seeing these stories and watching these late 20s and early 30s, even the young ladies in our group who were just thriving and pulling in tens of thousands, per month in passive income, it was just so inspiring, So with some partners, we bought our first apartment complex last year and purchased some other land. We're doing a huge build right now, and we're restoring an old home and some vacation rentals, but also a beach property. But just now, very intentional on acquisitions and just also diversifying, right? Not just through real estate, but just different areas because we don't really know what's going to happen right now. We know we're in a recession, entering a recession, you hear all these different things. But I really do, what I've heard and seen a lot of, and as I've been studying a lot, it looks like it's going to be more sector specific. And so the better we are at diversifying, the better we can protect ourselves. And so it's been learning a lot about that. And again, not with the focus of like, I just want to have all this money. It's like, I want to create this wealth and I want to create generational wealth so that I can enjoy my family and so that my kids and their kids and their kids can pursue the things that they love, but also have the means to be able to give back, to impact their community, to do things that they want.
Are you willing to share some of those diversification? I mean, you could share one-on-one with me on a separate call, but I am interested because we were talking about a couple of ideas in the past. We're going to partner up on some things, but I just got my official letter of accreditation, so I'm an official accredited investor. So now I can do all those cool deals that we were talking about a couple of years ago. So if you're willing to share, on the air with our audience, or
right now, I'll tell you, it's I'm personally more holding a little bit of cash and just watching. If a good deal comes up and the numbers look good, we might jump in. But right now, the next couple months, I'm just like stockpiling cash and waiting to see what happens because I think we are going to hit a point in some sectors and with some real estate, that we're seeing where people are just kind of upside down. There's going to be an opportunity to scoop more things up. So right now for myself, I'm in a season of like, put away cash, so that we're ready to like scoop up more. And then looking at just different companies, online companies, like we had talked about, like with Pure Want, just different things that are available and out there. To look at, okay, online retail, what are, different tech companies, what are things that don't really need much time, whether it's Cody Sanchez, if you haven't interviewed her, she's a phenomenal person, but, the diversification she has with just like ice machines or car washes or this or that, and just really looking at what are things that are always needed, right? For myself, I'm looking at with our properties, with our real estate, things we're doing there, what are all the different types of trades that we're constantly hiring and paying for? How can we acquire those companies and just own them, right? And some of those boring businesses that will be needed, and those are things I'm looking at right now as well. And those are different businesses that you're always going to need plumbers if there's still houses. We're going to need HVAC, AC repairs, at least, I foresee in the next couple decades. I don't know when robots will take over all that. But, there's different things where these trades are needed. And a lot of the younger generations, the grandkids, they don't want to do that. They want to just like be on YouTube or do other things. And so that's a really great thing to look at too, or what are some of the businesses that all these baby boomers, built, and they're now retiring. And a lot of their kids or grandkids don't want to do those jobs. How can you scoop some of those up? and be able to operate. And they already have clientele. They already have, so you're not starting a business from scratch. You're acquiring an established business and then, making tweaks to level it up and
I
create more
definitely
profit.
asked Justin these questions on his episode. So listener, go back to the episode with Justin Donald, because he gives like a blueprint on how he bought a mobile home park, doing the same strategy, how to buy a business using similar strategies. So listener, go back doing that. Cathy, one question before I kick to Biggs on this last thing is you are 36 weeks pregnant right now. Is that right? 37. So 37 weeks pregnant with your second child, and talking about this idea of investing and also holding, and this balance of being risk adverse versus being aggressive. And how do you or your women's group navigate that? I mean, how do you protect but also want to like invest at the same time? Like, I know that's a question that Lindsay and I have asked each other as well. It's like we want to have the security or like the freedom, and also we want to be intelligent. So it's like, how are you dancing with that? I'm curious.
We, in our group, there's definitely a lot of diversification with, there's the riskier, investments, where whether it's, all of cryptocurrency, this, that, just stuff that there's so many mixed thoughts on it, but I think it's a little bit riskier. You have, real estate that's risky, but also one of the just hundreds and hundreds of years you can look at the
there's
track
so many
record.
many elements of real estate, like between Airbnb or
and then I was just going to say that real estate itself has grown so much, from whether it's mobile home parks, apartment
storage
complexes,
units,
single family homes, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, storage, but then also, I know that a lot of the ladies have been doing some private lending as well. And so right now, as they're saving cash, instead of keeping cash in a savings account, earning 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever you might find out there, it's not much higher than that, or CDs, saying, okay, here I have somebody, they have assets, it can, we can back this up. And so I'm going to do a private loan to a friend or here. And so people utilizing their Roth IRAs, different retirement accounts, and being able to loan to each other and grow and gaining, having 10 to 12% interest coming in. That's like every month coming in, and it's secured and has something, some kind of the promissory note and some kind of guarantee that they know like they are getting that back. And so that's a great way to hold money while still building wealth. Because I lend out $100,000, I'm receiving at least an extra 12 grand that year. And if I lent that for 2 years, that's $24,000 I just received off that 100 grand, right? Or more. And so just looking at diversifying like some of those safer bets, right? That we know like this is guaranteed, this is here on paper like this, and then here's a riskier. Maybe I have equity in it. It could go up, it could go down. We don't know what's going to happen. So, having a little bit of both. Like, are you a partner or are you a private lender? You can, mix your portfolio that way. I know that that's been something that a lot of our women and myself have done. And then if you do have, maybe you're somebody listening to this and you're already in the, 5 mil, 10 mil, 15 mil or more net worth. Awesome. Then you can do both, right? You can be doing that private on a higher scale. You can still be making investments. I know some of our women that have really set themselves up. As I've asked during this, I'm newer in the last couple of years to like this space, right? And I've said, hey, what are you focusing on? And they're like, if I had under 10 mil, I'd just be like saving up cash. Since I have this, I'm doing that. Plus, I'm still keeping a lookout for those great deals, right? And partnerships and stuff that might be a little bit more secure. So it depends how risk averse you are, right? Some people are like, screw it, right? But for those who want to be a little bit safe, diversifying in that fashion.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for asking that, because I align fully. We had Chris Larson on the podcast. He talked about syndication deals and borrowing against your cash value life insurance. We had Justin Donald talk about lifestyle investment. Rachel Richards talking about passive income. So for you to double click on a lot of this stuff, it's all saying the same thing. It's like create a cash vehicle that your business makes you money, and then take that money and put it into a cash flow vehicle that creates more passive income to buy back your time. And it's just, man, it's so intelligent, but it's also not talked about enough amongst entrepreneurs to think this way. So really great. Thank you for sharing that. Biggs, it's up to you. Back to you, buddy.
Yeah, and I love what Cody Sanchez says about buying boring businesses and like all the things that you mentioned there. I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
just so smart. I love.
Fantastic.
She's a great follow on social. Um,
Mhm.
so one of the things that you're passionate about is helping entrepreneurial women, right? I'm curious on the more personal side of things, right? You listed, how do I also be a great, mom? How do I avoid this mom guilt? Mike and I were kind of talking, and we support each other. And I was talking about, I don't understand mom guilt. I don't get it. Like, if you're away from your kid, like for the night, you feel bad. Like, it's just me being honest, but I'm trying to support my wife in this, and I can't because I don't understand it. So, like, what are some of the unique challenges that you see women facing, and what do you think they need most right now? What do they need from the men in their lives? Like, help us out, over here on how to support them better.
Yeah, it's so great for you to ask that because it's difficult. Unfortunately, societal norms, right, and societal programming has created a space in our world where women more is expected in terms of the house, whether that might be with the kids, with household things, like whatever needs to happen. And so there are obviously people who have advanced beyond that, but just in terms of societal norms, there's this expectation. And by the way, there are women that they want to do those things. Like I want to make dinner for them. I love when my husband cooks. He's damn great at it. But like I love doing that. But it's like, how do I have I'm like, I just want to take a shower. I just want to take a shower. And my, son's like, oh yay, shower. And I'm like, no, by myself. I just want to breathe for a minute. Right. And so creating space, like if you do have a partner, if you happen to have a great partner, and for you guys that are married, hell yeah, being able to say, hey, I'm going to take the kid to the park for a minute, go take a bath, set up a bath, go do this, go like just breathe a little bit, because what's sacrificed a lot is self-care, and it's like a lot of the moms who are top level executives or business owners end up, just going. And it's amazing how much women can do even on empty, like on fumes, but like, can we create space that allows them to recharge a bit? And whether that's going to a women's conference or going to any kind of conference they want to go to just like kind of refill, get reignited, whether it's professionally or personally, creating space for some self-care. Like send your woman to the spa to go get a massage or do whatever. Maybe she likes to go hiking. Like say, I'm taking the kids. We're going here. You're going away. And one of my good friends, man, I'm always like, heck yeah, dude. He's so good at this. He'll like message his wife's friends, and he like set up. We did like a bingo night, and it was just like really fun, like wine and bingo. He got a table for us. He ordered 3 bottles of wine, charcuterie board. All this was waiting for us when we got there for bingo night. And he's like, I'm taking the kids. And he said, I just want you guys to go have some fun. Like she works so hard and she's always with the girls. I just want her to just breathe and be with her girls. And so like her husband like messaged, there was this like 7 of us that went, took the kids, set it all up. And I was like, how great is this? Like, I don't see enough of that happening.
I'm stealing that right there. That is a good move.
I think it's perfect.
Genius.
How does a mom receive this? So my curiosity is a mom willing to receive the time away, willing to receive the bath time. No, I'm not. Because that mom guilt that Andrew said, it's like, no, if I go take care of myself, then I'm not being a good mom. So it's like, no, I can't accept that time away as a massage
when you have the partner or a sister or a loved one, someone that says, I'm taking the kids to do this and you're not allowed to come and you're going here, then you don't feel guilty because they're in good hands. Right. And, the guilt comes from like, I feel like I'm expected to do this. And so if I take time for myself and I'm not doing this, then there's an issue. That's where the mom guilt comes in. Right. But if I know it's fully taken care of by loved ones,
so you got to give that certainty. Like, so the mom needs the certainty from the loved ones to say, I got it. Don't worry about it. And that's how they can receive a little bit better, if I'm hearing this right.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
I want to ask you.
Because it's like, well, why aren't you doing that? Like, I don't know. It helps. And even if the partner or friends, like no one's put that on them. Like I said, society kind of has, and it might be in your subconscious. And when you hear, verbally somebody say, hey, look, this is all under control. Or you come home like dinner's made. We've got this. Like tonight is your night to go read a book for an hour and we're going to go to the park during that hour and you just chill, you know? And if she's like, well, I want to go to the park too, great. But it's like, it's because she wants to, not because she feels she has to do something else on her list and be in 5 places, right? So I think just that, giving them permission, but doing it in a way where you create space, like dinner's already made, this is already done, this is already booked, and here's who's taking care of the kids, myself and my sister, or we're going to grandma's, or we're going here, and they know everything's under control. Now I can breathe because I'm not worrying about, how about this, how about the food, how about, so just creating more space for that, because it is a real thing, and you want to, every mom, like there's I don't know, there's this connection that you have. And I don't want to say every, but most moms, like you want to spend more time with your kids. You also love that time away, and then also like, date nights, right? Like partners, women or men, like partners, like create some fun date nights. Maybe you have like a very entrepreneurial partner, like myself. And so plan stuff, because then it feels like, oh, I have to do everything. I have to plan everything. I have to do everything, So again, taking ownership on taking some things off the plate without, your wife asking bigs or whatever, like it feels good, and you have that partner by your side who's supporting.
Well,
I love it. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Before we head for the exits with our 3 final questions, I just wanted to plug your book, Life is a Masterpiece with Cathy Christen. If you had to give us a quick, just quick update as far as to like what inspired you to write the book, why would someone want to pick it up? Mm-hmm. And then we'll ask you our 3 final questions before we head for the exits today. So tell us, why would someone want to pick up this book, or what inspired you to write it?
This really is more of a legacy piece. I planned on nothing more except my great grandkids getting to read it. I'm very grateful that it's been able to bless so many people already and so many families, and I've had some great feedback. But it's really what I learned. I grew up in Cutco Vector, through college, and I was exposed to so much I'd never heard before. I grew up in. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people in it. We didn't have a whole ton. And I grew up just be grateful for what you have and do the most with what you get. But never think bigger. What do you want? It was almost like a bad thing to want more. It's like, why are you wanting more? You have enough, right? So all of a sudden I'm in the sales company and they're like, what do you want? What do you want to work? I'm like, I just want to take care. No, like if you had everything, like what would you want to do? And just starting to think about those things. And I'd never really been asked, what do you want? Or when I was asked, I would say, well, I don't want this. And they're like, oh, okay. But no one had ever said, but what do you want? Right? Like I was always like, I knew what I didn't want. And it drove me a lot. But I never really sat and thought about like, what do I want? Like, what does the life of my dreams actually like look like? Right. And so the first time I was exposed to that was, working in Cutco Vector, being exposed to people like Brian Tracy, and Maximum Achievement is one of my favorite books that I think everyone should read. Being exposed to Tony Robbins, right, and John Maxwell, and just starting to learn from these greats in terms of really like tapping into that full potential. And I always knew like I had the ability to do so much, but wasn't really sure like what it looked like. It's like, did I have to be born into that family to be able to do all that? Like, what did that look like? And so for myself, like, and this book really outlines like a lot of what I went through from 19 to 22 and really have gone through with thousands of people over the last 21 years. And it's about, the first third of the book is all about what do you want and why do you want it? And really identifying that and being okay to like dream big, right? And not feeling bad for wanting more, or wanting to do more. And the second half of the second third of the book is really my bread and butter, which is strategy. It's how do we do it? How do we get it? And so it's very strategic with breaking down numbers, breaking things down, putting in calendar. It's what I love to do. I would say for myself, and you asked me this earlier, and I didn't say this, but I would say I'm more of a strategist, a business strategist, business and life strategist. So I love the strategy aspect of how to. Once someone figures out what they want, I had one of my clients actually last week. She said, why don't you do more business? Like, you should work with Tony Robbins. Like, you're so good at all this. I started laughing. I said, I said, honestly, I said, more of the like, what do you want? Why do you want it? The bigger vision. I said, that's not what I'm most passionate about, but it is very important. I said, where I light up is like, let me show you how to do it, and like the strategy aspect. So that's the second part of the book. And then the last third is all about like, how do you sustain it, right? Because life happens and derails us sometimes, right? And so how do you sustain it? And just really talking about those like habits, daily habits, energy management, tools, people that you surround yourself with, and stuff that a lot of us have heard, but I think it's packaged in a very easy to digest manner. At the end of each chapter, there's a design exercise, and they build upon each other, and so it's like a blueprint. So when you finish the book, you have this like blueprint, and like, okay, let's go, and really see some movement. And I've had some really great stories I've heard of people who have done that and what got done, since then. And I'm excited for it to impact more.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like it's really a comprehensive, way to design your life, right? Which is, makes total sense. So we have 3 questions for you. Okay. My first question is, what do you think the world needs most right now?
More heart, more connection to heart, right? And that's between people, like people with themselves, because I think that we get on autopilot with whatever we're doing, and we forget to go back to here. And there's so much magic that comes like when we're really rooted into our hearts. So I would say that's something that's really needed, and just like people caring and giving permission for that to be okay. Versus it being like weird for someone to be vulnerable or be open.
Totally.
So I'd say that's probably my number one answer.
I love that. What 1 to 3 books would you recommend everybody read, in your opinion?
So I mentioned one, Maximum Achievement. Like that was such a great book for me when I remember reading it at 19, was a game changer. And I think there's some great books like Think and Grow Rich. There's also Think and Grow Rich for women, for you ladies out there. And so there's different versions of that. But there's a lot of great, oh my gosh, I don't know, but probably some of the people I just spoke about are some of the best, some of my favorites. Like I love Brian Tracy. I love Tony Robbins. I love Napoleon Hill, and a lot of the old great books. But really that personal development and that self-awareness and understanding why you are the way you are, I really feel brings this different level of ownership for somebody to create the life of their dreams versus going, well, this is just how I am. Well, if that's the case, it's like, well, this is just how it is versus like, oh, this is why I'm like this. And so now I can make these decisions intentionally to be here. So I think that books that really evolve around self-development, self-awareness, really project people forward in all areas of life.
Right. And Kat, last question. What does it mean to you to be better than rich?
It's that whole person. It's really identifying those things besides money, right? Or, I mean, you could say rich is so many different things, but better than rich to me is more than money. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? And it's just like having the relationships that you care about thriving. It's having the space to pursue things that you love, whether that be golf or travel or just playing with your kids. Having the means to do that, having the means to help others that might not have been set up the way that you've set yourself up. Maybe they haven't had the resources, the tools, the mentorship, and being able to help guide them and being able to pass that on, I think is one of the things that makes you the wealthiest.
Well, Cathy, thank you so much for your time. And we really thank you for your energy, for your wisdom today, for your friendship over the last almost 2 decades. And if people wanted to leave this episode and take action, learning more about your C-level executive coaching or Go Abundance for Women, or pick up a copy of your book, where might they be able to go check any of this out?
CathyChristen.com is probably the best place. It has links to everything there. So that's what I would say. CathyChristen.com. So CATHY, and then it's CHRIS, like the name Chris, and then 10, like the number 10, TEN. So CathyChristen.com.
Perfect. We'll put that link in the show notes. And again, thank you, Andrew, for your time. Thank you, Cathy, for your time. Thank you, listener, for your time. And assuming this episode helped you, it's your turn to help others by sharing this with a friend. Subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. And remember, leave today better than you found it. Till next time.
What's up, guys? Biggs here. I hope you enjoyed that clip.
If you did, go ahead and check out the other video that's being recommended on the screen right now. You can also subscribe to our channel. And then if you really are interested in what we do, go to automatedelegatesystemize.com to learn more about what we're up to. Thanks again.